הכוח חוסר לאנשים. הרדיו החברתי הראשון. הכוח חוסר לאנשים.
ערב טוב לכם וברוכים הבאים לעוד תוכנית של זהות. אתם יחד איתי, אני קדיס, אם הספקתם להתגעגע. לא היינו כאן הרבה מאוד זמן. אנחנו בגרסה מיוחדת היום, כל התוכנית מיוחדת. חריג בנוף, כל התוכנית הולכת להיות באנגלית, אז אתם מוזמנים להצטרף אלינו ואנחנו נעשה את הסוויץ' ממש עכשיו ונתחיל. אנחנו מדברים היום על שיווק, על גדילה, על צמיחה. ניקול כאן איתנו ואנחנו פשוט נעבור כרגע לאנגלית. So good evening, how are you? That was a very long introduction to say we're going to do it in English. We're going international. So tonight we're going to... Exactly. So England, yeah. So this evening we're going to... This episode is all about marketing and growth. And Nicole here is... she's going to introduce herself better than I will shortly. And obviously Yael Fish was here before a few times even. So as I said, we're going to discuss about, talk about marketing and growth, and especially with small startups where the challenge there is, money and cash flow and things that we're going to discuss along this hour. But I'm going to start with a short song that Yael chose, kind of. And we're going to go back to the whole show with no interruptions at all. If you have any questions, we're here for the next hour, so you can totally write us here on Facebook Live. If you have any questions for Nicole or Yael about marketing, growth, and so on, strategies. So a few minutes and we're going to go back. Feel free to share, like, subscribe, whatever gives us more followers and viewers. And we're going to get back to you in like 3 minutes, so don't go anywhere.
Change the channel. But I keep losing my remote. It's like my favorite chore song. I can predict your every joke. My friends think that I'm lucky, but I bet that you don't know that I don't really think so. Chick flicks and breadsticks. No, we don't have to say a thing. I like when you're holding my hand, but I don't feel nothing. Do I really love you? I should really love you. I'm like a bird in a cage and I'm going cuckoo, cuckoo. I know that I can escape, but I don't want to hurt you, hurt you. Do I really love you? Do I really love you? I'm like a bird in a cage and I'm going cuckoo, cuckoo. I know that I can escape, but I don't wanna hurt you, hurt you. Do I really love you? Do I really love you? I think about the breakup. Sometimes I wanna pack my shit and run. It's like a trip to Vegas. Well, I regret it when it's done. It's like my heart is burning, so I overdose on drugs. Maybe something's wrong with me, maybe something's wrong with me, maybe something's wrong with me. Chick flicks and breadsticks, now we don't have to say a thing. I like when you're holding my hand, but I don't feel nothing. Do I really love you? I should really love you. I'm like a bird in a cage and I'm going cuckoo, cuckoo. I know that I can escape, but I don't wanna hurt you, hurt you. Do I really love you? Do I really love you? I'm like a bird in a cage and I'm going cuckoo, cuckoo. I know that I can escape, but I don't wanna hurt you, hurt you. Do I really love you? Do I really love you?
So, thank you for joining us again. So, a quick reminder for all of you who's wondering why am I talking in English. This is a special episode. We're going to talk about startups, growth, and marketing as a whole, especially when you have a very, very low budget. Not a very low budget, but not like the big players' budget. So, before we go on with the questions, feel free, obviously, to leave a mark, a message, anything you feel like in this live event. For all of you who doesn't even know who am I yet, my name is Anis. I'm an owner of a branding agency, and at day and at night, that's what I do basically. Invite people and talk about marketing and branding and a lot of things that I feel like can contribute to the startup world in general. So before we go on, please introduce yourself, Nicole, Yael.
So I'm Nicole Afek. I'm a marketing director. Originally from England, I've then spent about 9 years in Seattle on the west coast of America, about as far away as you can get. And then a year and a half ago, I moved to Israel to be closer to family. So that whole journey throughout every place I've been to, my role has been in marketing and communications and a little bit of project management as well. So I have a decent background behind me.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, how about you?
So I'm Yael Fish. I live in Tel Aviv. I have 3 kids, a husband that also deal with marketing. For the past 20 years, I've been dealing with marketing and sales, different roles, different companies. Today, I have several hats. One of them is, my main business is I'm a business consultant. For marketing strategy. I also one of the members, the team member in Google business community in Facebook, the Shopping Yael community, and also I work at the ICB, the International Cathedra in Bioethics. I'm a member of the Government Council. That's it.
Perfect. So that's a nice resume, actually.
Very impressive.
But Nicole won with England, and it just sounds better.
And Microsoft.
It just sounds better. Microsoft.
I don't know if you haven't mentioned it, right?
No.
She didn't even mention. Yeah.
No,
So
we didn't get there yet.
we're gonna get there. Microsoft. Yeah. We did the name dropping. Former Microsoft marketing manager.
Former Microsoft, and I actually had 2 different roles while I was there. The first one was helping small and medium businesses. So a lot of the work that I was involved with was taking really high-level enterprise, very complex and complicated products, licensing, bundles, and kind of sifting through what that actually meant for our audience, making sure that it was relevant, highly valuable, something that they could actually afford. So paying attention to, you've got the big wigs, all the huge banks who use massive enterprise software, and then there's a small flower shop where there's 2 or 3 people, but they still need cybersecurity or they still need Office 365. So there was a lot of work thinking, let me bring this
How to
the
simplify
right
this,
exactly.
the whole idea, because
Take it down, funnel it, sift through everything for people so they don't have to do it, because Microsoft is known for having a lot of information.
Yeah.
So that was really fun. That first audience, I did that for about 2.5 years for small and medium businesses. And then I switched roles and it was amazing. I was working for nonprofits.
That's
Fantastic,
perfect.
Yeah. And again, very, very low budgets in nonprofits. So you've got to get really
Even none,
smart.
Even
So
none.
You have to get really, really smart about.
So before we dive in, I want to talk about marketing in general and strategies in general. The last 3 to 5 years were very like a super roller coaster, if you can say that. I mean, it's not just COVID; it's the new technologies that came in, the new players like TikTok and so on. How do you feel marketing strategies change in the last 3 to 5 years?
So I think I'll start with the pandemic, because I think that actually had a massive effect on people. From a marketing standpoint, first of all, mentally, people were really concerned and scared, and offices shut down and everything moved from being physical to online. So anyone in marketing trying to sell products and trying to get their messaging out had to adapt very, very quickly to how people were receiving information and how people were living their lives. So I think, first of all, moving from physical to digital was a huge shift. You see it now with Elon Musk, demanding people come back to physically work at Twitter, and there's a backlash against it. people are very happy with this nice hybrid that we've created with online and offline. So that's the first thing. Also, I think as a marketer, I noticed the shift in how we do communication. There was a I saw a rise in inbound communication rather than outbound. So people were really getting resistant to cold outreach, to people saying, hi, I noticed that, no, shut this down. I'm not having any of it. There's too much going on in my life.
The cold human activity.
Exactly. But on the flip side, there was a big influx of people reaching out saying, hi, I saw this, can you help me with this? And I think that also led to the rise of chatbots and the way that we experience assistance and help on websites. It's very, AI playing a huge role there. But I think that it kind of all came together in a way of recognizing how the world was responding.
Is it safe to say it became less human in a way?
I wouldn't say necessarily less human. I think it's smarter.
Smarter.
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that
save you time as a consumer.
A lot of the stuff that's been outsourced to AI, or outsourced, I should say, to AI, like chatbots.
It is getting paid.
It is.
And,
That's true. They're making a lot of money, those robots.
Yeah.
So a lot of those tasks are tasks that take a lot of time and investment for a single person, and you can shift that person's productivity somewhere else. But also, again, with this whole don't talk to me, don't call me, I don't want to be approached, there's a lot more people trying to do self-serve. So when you have information and it's very clearly laid out and it's really broken down simply, whether that's the layout of your website, whether that's the way you categorize your content, let people be able to explore, guide them through, give them hints, but create it in a way that they can do it themselves. They don't need to call unless they really want to, and then that's when you know that they're engaged.
Yeah, give them the option and don't make the decision for them.
Exactly. Give them the choices. Have a way to call, have a way for them to reach out to you. Have, again, little breadcrumbs, little clues.
Yeah.
If you're interested, I have a white paper for you, this kind of activity, but make it so that they are doing the exploring for themselves and you're not shouting with something in their face and that they might not be ready for.
Yeah. Just make them feel like they took the decision, although we all know it's the AI.
It's also, it's related to the fact that when you have more data to get insights from, so the customer journey is much more accurate.
Exactly.
Yeah, because you know what he wants, what he likes, what he dislikes, when he stops to watch, when you know how to analyze the data. And you ask about the last year, so we have more data, we know better how to analyze it, and we can accurate the customer journey.
Yeah, and I think one change exactly on that, I think there's been a rise in the way we retarget as well. So we're paying attention to however that's being tracked, and not just throwing them the same ad again, but again, if somebody's personalizing, if someone's watched part of a video, you'll be able to know that information and serve them a different piece of content that relates to that message because you're retargeting based on them.
Yeah.
And you don't necessarily know that it's Simon who's living in Idaho who's doing it, but you probably do. You know they're living in Idaho. You might not know that it's Simon.
Yeah.
But you have enough information that it can still be anonymous enough that that person doesn't feel like their privacy has been compromised, but you can get enough detail so that you can customize how they view that product, because everyone's going to have a different pain point. Everyone's going to have a different reason for buying.
So I understand we're talking about mainly making it very simplified, yet complex for us to be intrigued, in a way to explore, which is a very complex task to do, because you don't want to go over simple and make it a bit unappealing, and you don't want to be over complex. So how do you find the sweet spot?
I think it's about stages. So within a customer journey, you're looking, who doesn't know me at all? And what's the one thing I want them, with all the noise that's going on in the world right now, there's so much information.
Yeah.
If they have come to your content, your website, what do I want them to go away knowing about me? And then if they come back or there's something else to follow up from, what's the next thing that's going to help me convert them to a customer? What are they looking at? What are they interested in? Where did they spend the most time? Did they come in from a referral? All this information helps you plan that path to help take them down the steps you need in terms of sales, but that they need in terms of how you can help them.
Because each individual person in the end will struggle in a different stage. It can be the credit card place, or it depends on ages and a lot of other complex things.
That's the reason, by the way, that you're trying to do this simple, like every stage, like the payment, you have to make sure that it's easy. The registration, you have to make sure it's easy. You have to look at every step and make it more.
I think especially like the third phase of our lives, like I don't want to say old people, but like 50 and above, sorry, not 50, 60 and above, may have trouble adjusting to this whole fast and furious ads, and everything is so fast and simple and one click button and so on. So that's an audience I think no one actually pays attention to, and they can bring revenue, obviously. So.
Yeah, well, absolutely. They're
It's just an
cashing in their
example.
retirement funds.
Exactly. There's a lot of money there.
A lot of disposable income, the silver surfers. So I actually think that's a really good point, because for me, at least, it comes down to trust. If there's people who are afraid of technology, or they don't quite understand the complexity of your product, if you can help them feel the trust, if you can show them
that you care,
but if you can show them, don't worry, we're taking care of it, this is how we help, then you're appealing to the right audience, and it really is about the targeting.
And also, I think you have to make sure that your user experience is fit to them. I mean, make it really, really simple, so they won't be complicated, for doing the CTA, the call to action that you want them to do.
So that's actually one way to look at that, which is a really interesting way, and again, it's exploding, is if you position accessibility first.
Yeah.
So you don't have to create a product that's for accessibility or helping a specific group of people with, certain needs. But if you're aware of that, screen readers, people with low vision, people who need subtitles and captioning, people who learn differently, if you are aware of those needs, and that's the way you approach how you develop your content and how you put your message out to the world, you're probably going to check that box of being... somebody can easily get hold of this content. It's easy to understand. Alt tags, super simple. Captioning, super simple. It comes as standard on some things, even on YouTube. You just upload the file and it's done. So I think the more people pay attention to that, it comes under the bracket of accessibility. But if you pay attention to that, you're probably going to, by default, simplify a lot of what you're saying.
Yeah, so basically just look at your audience before even you're getting your product out there, and make sure that it fits everybody.
It's knowing your audience and also trying to do each step in the way they're doing from the minute they thought they need your product until they bought it. It's very important to go on as a customer and see where you maybe tackle some difficulties and then fix that. But I want to continue talking about inclusive marketing. Let's talk about that. How, in your opinion, a marketing strategy can be inclusive? Because we just talked about it. There's a lot of different kinds of people. I can't take care of each individual sector. So how do you actually do it and talk to the majority of your audience?
Yeah, so there's kind of two ways of looking at that. Again, you don't want to focus on every single individual, but you also have to be really careful of grouping everyone in kind of these generic lumps of needs. So it's
Americans,
actually, all Americans do this,
Amazing.
all Israelis do this. So no, it gets really dangerous, and actually you can really offend people when you do that. And if you cater only to one type of person, you miss a huge amount of audience. So it's finding that right balance. So for me, at least, especially over the last year, where I've been supporting a startup who helps people with visual impairments and orientation challenges navigate the world. They're called Right Here, by the way, anybody who wants to check them out. So there's been, we've been looking at how do we adapt the messaging to help businesses are the customers for them. They aren't necessarily people who live in the world of visual impairment. So how do you bring the way they think about their product into fit the world that people have to experience. So being inclusive doesn't mean that you take images that represent everybody, because then you're just not being authentic.
Yeah.
But actually what it means...
You can actually offend and do the opposite.
Exactly. So what being inclusive means is think about the need that your product serves. So what are you helping people do? Are you helping people live independently? Are you helping people be more productive? Are you helping people, be safe when they're running and jogging outdoors? What is the need that you're doing? And how many possible people could that help? Go and find the case studies of those people. Go and talk to those customers. Keep it authentic. Keep it real about who you are, and you will have inclusive marketing, because you're actually focusing who are my customers and featuring them.
It's always the same. I mean, know your audience, know your persona to make each individual, and know the problem, and your product or your service is a solution to their problem.
Exactly. And
just have to figure this out.
It seems easy, but yet we always create things for ourselves before we create it for others, and that's the whole point of the show, the podcast or whatever. It is it's the best show in town, yeah. But that's what I mean, because you always think about yourself as a business owner, as an agency, whatever. You want to see things that are cool, that are appealing, and in the end, at the money time, no one buys the product. Yeah. So that's inclusive marketing 101. But do you want to share some thoughts about how can we talk to a majority of people without offending?
I will refer to that in a different way. Like, I think you asked me this once. It was in Hebrew, so I can repeat that. How do I feel comfortable with the word selling? I think it's the same. I mean, if I know that I have a value for the other side, I know that's your problem. My products are a solution for your problem. I'm helping you. I'm not selling you anything. So it's an omni-channel, with marketing and sales. It goes together. But basically, it's understanding your value and how is your product is helping the other side, and that's it. So, and then, as Nicole said, you have to figure out who has your problems. Maybe it's multi-problems.
Yeah,
maybe it's
let's take a very broad example of productivity. If your product helps people be more productive, then somebody who, like Yael has 3 kids and you're running around and both partners are working, and like that's her issue at the time is, how do I do all these things at the same time? Maybe it's by voice instead of you having to be on your phone, and that's how you talk about it. Somebody else might have, I just don't have enough hours in the day, but I don't need to do all the things at once. I need a list or some time management, something.
Totally different approach.
It's a different way of looking at it. Like, in this moment, I have my hands full. Over here, I need to figure out, how do I spread myself to get everything done and not cram. So you have to, it's still productivity, but you have to relate to the need, and you can get really specific on the need.
Totally, you can be super pinpoint to something. Yeah,
and sometimes it's just different messages. Sometimes if it's for like e-commerce, it just there's a super speedy delivery.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just I don't care. I mean, I care about the product and the quality, but I need it for tomorrow. So that will be my decision. So it's not always about the product. It's also about everything that's going with the product.
Yeah. And whether you do returns, the way you look at
exactly. If I can't return it, so maybe it's not not the product for me.
If it's customer service, is it only an email?
And if I can't pay on the payment, so definitely not my product. Even if I want it badly.
I burned from Amazon. Never mind.
No, honestly, a lot of people don't, especially e-commerce, they don't think about all this. Like, I gave you the product, I did all the marketing, but then I'm not like the paying is the system is like annoying. I can't deal with that.
Yeah. Or it doesn't accept certain cards, so you have to think about the whole experience. You were mentioning, the segments of the journey. I do really want to stress that a lot of people, especially when they're starting out, they focus right at the front, huge influx of people, loads of awareness, everyone loves it, we do PR. And then you have the next level, which is where they're thinking about buying. filter down, a lot less people, and then you get through to people.
Comparing
who buy.
maybe, you know, it's
Yeah.
a thing, you know, when you compare to different sites
Absolutely,
and so on.
different competitors. But once you get through and you have a customer, I want to really stress to anyone in the startup world, it does not end there. That's where it begins.
Yeah, that's
it's
the
like you
journey.
dated them and then they said, yes, let's go out for a date. You don't ghost them. You have to nurture that. You have to keep it going.
Till you get married, right? From the first date.
And when you
right?
get married, you still go on dates. I don't know about you, I still go on dates.
I mean, a retainer is kind of like a prenup if you think about it. So.
Yeah, but I really, it's really important to kind of flip the way we look at it.
Yeah.
Yes, you can bring the customers in, but you have to keep them. And think about the churn rate. It costs so much more to acquire a new customer than it does to keep a current customer renewing.
That's interesting.
Yeah, the lifetime value
Interested.
of a customer is
Huge.
8 versus a new one versus a existing customer. Yeah, it's
So we started talking a bit about startups, and we mentioned Microsoft. It's a
Not
huge,
a startup.
It's not a startup. It got bigger in the last year. Startups have low budgets, even no budget at all. And they still have the need to market and get the right investor, get the right match, get the right user, and so on. How can you be smart with your startup's marketing budget, in your opinion?
So I think the very first thing to do is get your messaging clear. If you know what you stand for and know what you don't stand for, because that's also important.
Yeah.
Know what you stand for, know who will benefit from what you're doing. And you can start with word of mouth. You can start with, go pester the people you know who own blogs and who have podcasts and who might do a featured article in a newspaper. Like, get your name out there. Get people who are customers or will be customers to start talking about it. Generate some word of mouth. Start there. That doesn't cost anything.
Yeah.
You don't have to pay $1 or a shekel.
It is time consuming.
It is, but I would say, when you're at that stage, you're a hustler.
Exactly. Yeah.
You have to be.
I agree.
Otherwise
I mean-
it isn't going to last. You have to push. You have to, there's 15 no's. You keep going because the 16th is going to be a yes.
And what if I do have like a super low budget, but I do have money on the side for marketing? How can I choose like the right platform? How can I choose the right way to market and not
priority.
waste
Yeah,
money?
what's the priority?
So I think that's a kind of a tough question because every business is going to be different.
Exactly. It
But
depends on the sector and so on. But
so the way to approach it, you can actually just kind of build yourself a grid, and you say like, who am I targeting? And it's okay to have multiple target audiences.
Yeah.
We might take the people who have disposable income, who are over 60, who have a lot more free time than other people, and you say, okay, I want to speak to them, and I want to talk to them about staying healthy, and I want to talk to them about staying healthy because that business has to fill that in. So you have to figure out, who am I helping? Why am I helping them? How am I helping them? Why would they care? And why would they use me and not someone else? And if you can kind of imagine a chart that you fill that in, if you can figure that one out, you can be really smart with your money. Imagine taking, let's say you have a very small budget. I'm not going to throw numbers because my numbers might be Microsoft numbers. Let's say you have a really small budget.
I'm wondering what are you about to say.
I know.
$2 million.
$2 million. No, a really, really small budget. You could run some Facebook ads where you narrow down to a really tight age group. Maybe you want to work just on, females, or maybe people who also have an interest in music, and get tighter and tighter and tighter, even go down to region. That's not going to cost you that much. And you can start with some really specific.
But I think it all starts with this question of who am I marketing to? And also, you said it before, to choose who am I not going to market to. So that's a very important stage. Why do you think we need to talk about things that we're not going to do?
I think it helps you define who you are. So just as and this has also been a transition in the last 3 to 5 years, maybe a little bit more, that businesses kind of have to stand for something. We treat them like we treat people. We glorify the CEOs because we we
It's a
look
person.
up
We
to them.
relate.
Exactly,
Yeah,
we relate
the
to
brand.
them.
That's the whole. Yeah.
And when they upset us, we turn away. And when they're doing great, we really lean in and we love them. So think of your startup and your business as an alter ego for yourself. So then, who are you? What do you like? What do you not like? What do you enjoy? Who are you helping? Why is this important to you? Why is it not? And if you try and imagine your business as a person, you'll really get there. You can, take it down and be very specific about who you are. Just like we could sit here and say, I love spicy food. You might be like, oh my gosh, I definitely don't like spicy food. That's okay to recognize that you don't like spicy food, but I do. And it's okay for me to stand for that. And it's okay for me to know I don't like sweet food. So knowing where you stand and what you're going to go for and what you're not, like, again, with the food analogy, we could be at a buffet.
Food is great, yeah.
Why would I go for something sweet when I really want the spicy food? I'm not going to waste my time looking at pancakes and syrup. I'm going to go straight for the jalapeno nachos or whatever, right? So same with your audience. Know what you're not going after and don't waste your time. Don't waste your energy or your budget.
Yeah.
But go for the nachos.
But after knowing the audience, you have to know what's the distribution channel that you're going to be. So then you have to, after you ask us the question, you know where they're at. I mean, if they're in a certain age, they may be here and etc. And I think it's all about, I mean, at least at the beginning, you have to think about something that the ROI, the return of investment, will be the lowest. Like, for example, I really believe in collaborations for marketing when you don't have a budget. Because then you can sometimes go to the mass market, even if you're like, for example, B2C, you want a B2C marketing, and you're collaborating with a union that everybody's over there. So you get all the audience once without getting a lot of budget.
Yeah. And actually, you raised a really interesting point, which is that you have to you have to look for who you're targeting and make sure that you reach out to them specifically. I've lost my train of thought, so I'm going to pass and I'll come back to it. But you said something that like really triggered something I was going to add. So come back to me. I'll remember what it was.
Okay, sounds good. So all we need to do basically is sit down and write a few, let's say, guidelines about who am I going to market to, who am I not going to market to, and then figure out where they're hanging out. Because
before that, who is the audience? What's the value proposition? And
why will they care? So I want to also be really careful. We as a company, as marketers, like you say, you don't want to only think about yourself.
Yeah.
Have a value proposition and know what it is, but make sure that it actually resonates with the people. You might wish desperately that you're the best at e-commerce.
How can you
but
actually
have to
check that? I mean,
Oh, that's a great
research,
question.
yeah.
Yeah, you have to do it. That even if you're a tiny business, even if you're one person, please ask the customers. Just pick up the phone, especially if we're in Israel. I mean, everybody knows someone. Just, I need a marketing, I need to ask someone for a quick conversation. Please ask the question. You're getting so much information from that. For a survey for your existing customers, obviously for potential
I know why you're
customers.
mentioning that, because I didn't do it.
No, and I remembered what I was going to say before, which is you were talking about the Facebook, knowing where different people are. Like some people are on Facebook, some are hanging out on
Yeah,
TikTok.
exactly. Different channels.
And I think it's so important, again, when you're starting out in business and you really want to have your message and you know that this startup is going to change the world, you know that this thing has never been done before. People do not know who you are and they don't know where to come. So don't make them come to you. Go to them. They're already hanging out in all these places, maybe in the metaverse. We don't know.
Especially groups, by the
You
way.
can be in the metaverse.
Especially
the
Eventually.
They're actually selling now, like actual ads and properties and houses on the metaverse, which is crazy to me.
Yeah, it's amazing.
We'll get to that in a bit, but yeah, groups, existing communities.
Conference. I mean, if you're looking for, I don't know, whatever, just lawyers, whatever, go to a conference that everybody is already there and reach them.
Yeah, and sorry, I'm just going to add one quick thing as well.
Yeah.
Have a look at your competitors' search target words and have a look at what you want your search terms to be as well. There's so much insight in that.
Keywords.
The keywords, what people are actually searching for, and what you want them to search for in order to find you might be over here.
And
so
that's like
you
a
really
few
have
minutes,
to look.
Yeah, it's like a few minutes.
Yeah,
you can do it
yeah.
very, very easily, and it's a lot of insights. from
Huge
keywords.
value.
Yeah,
Huge value.
So I wanted to ask, and we started talking about it in the waiting room, about sensitive products. We have products that talk about cancer, that talk about real life, like death-threatening diseases, you know. Not everything is beautiful and Instagram worthy. How do you tackle that marketing-wise when you have a product that's super sensitive? Let's say you do know how to reach out and who's your audience, but you just, how do you communicate cancer? How do you communicate things that might be frightening in a way?
So I think one place is, as Yael said, with the collaborations. I think, you know, with the work that I did for nonprofits, a lot of those nonprofits were helping people with disabilities, Make-A-Wish Foundation, helping kids who, you know, this might be their very last trip. Like, there's some really raw, emotional nonprofits out there doing incredible things. And the way that they go about that is they have such a strong community. People really need to feel that they belong somewhere. So with the collaborations, if there's a nonprofit that's dealing, your example, if they're dealing with cancer or, you know, really terrible diseases, go to the people who do that, go to the hospitals, go to the research centers, look at the people who are on the chat rooms and things that have already been created. Again, don't expect them to come to you. Go to where they already are. And that does require research. It requires time to figure out. You're not going to snap your fingers and be like, wow, I put this amazing thing in the world. Where are my customers? It takes a lot of time and effort to go and find them. But once you have an automatically receptive audience.
Yael, what's your take on sensitive topics and marketing?
What, specific things or
No,
in general?
Because, you know, it's very easy to go on and just be real about it and just write, hey, I have a product that saves lives, and show like horrible pictures and emotionally like drain the hell out of me, and okay, I clicked the button. But that's not gonna work eventually in some cases. How would you tackle something that's so complex? It doesn't have to be cancer, obviously, but something that's not super fun and light and, you know.
I'm sorry that I'm again with the same same answer, but it's
fine.
always the same answer. It's always the same. I mean, you're solving. It doesn't matter if I don't know if it's cancer. If you're solving a problem, if I have a problem and your product and your service will help me, and you will get, as Nicole says, the message where I'm at, and I can see that you can help me with your service and product, I would like to use it. I would like to try it. So basically that's marketing. I mean, it's always the same. So know your audience, do the research, talk to them, figure out what they want, not what you think that they want,
Or what you want.
yeah. It's a lot and
It takes work.
Yeah.
It does take work. And you mentioned earlier that you have to go to them and not wait for them to come to you. And I want to discuss something that we usually ignore, especially here in Israel, because we have a lot of nuances in languages that we take for granted, or you don't talk to a British guy the same way you talk to an American guy, which is very different and complex. And how do you think we can like harness the power of different nuances to our marketing strategy?
I think that's a great question because, again, spending the last year and a half working in Israel as a British speaker and not being particularly fluent in Hebrew, I've had my mishaps.
So super different. I mean,
Yeah, it's very different. So there's actually two things that come with that. There's language and then there's culture. So I'll cover language quickly. But from language, if anybody out there is native Hebrew speaker and you have people who know English but it's not native English, the one thing I would advise, run things by somebody who is who speaks English as a mother tongue, or if you're trying to break into the Spanish market, find somebody who speaks Spanish as their mother tongue. And they don't have to write it for you. You don't have to spend a ton of money having things translated. Even take what you're doing, shove it in Google Translate, give it to a native speaker, and they'll edit it for you. But there's a lot of things that can get missed, and this
Please
is kind
don't
of
use Google Translate.
yeah. So no, I mean no.
Don't. But yeah.
But I'm saying only do that if you're then going to send it to somebody. Don't ever use Google Translate and then put it out there. That's my point.
Yeah.
Because you have some serious mishaps. And there's examples all over the web. If you want to just search, translation
signs.
fails.
Yeah.
It's really, really
I think
terrible.
they're doing it on purpose, because let's be honest, Google
Potentially.
can actually get smarter with the translation, and they just
Potentially.
Yeah, maybe.
I mean, but it's a lesson for people who are just starting out and wanting to break into a market where that's not their own language, or that they're not fluent in that language. That's one of the main things that I would say.
And what about the cultural
From the
aspect?
cultural side, so again, it was an adaptation for me. I feel the Israeli culture, everyone's very direct. They know what they want, and I love that. But when you have to nuance how you speak to people in English, you can't just take the words and put them in another language. You have to adapt the construct and the way that you say it. So there's layers and layers of politeness, for example, it's overkill in English, but there's layers of the way that you say something. And if you know somebody, or if you're just doing an outreach, it's a completely different attitude to have with them. And the email that you send must reflect the current relationship that you have with them, or the ad that you're trying to put out there, or the newsletter, whatever the content is, has to take into account whether they know you, whether they're a customer or not. So it's things like that from a cultural perspective. That also goes back to inclusive marketing.
Yeah.
Culturally, you want to make sure that you're representing, be aware of any national days or things that are happening for two reasons. One, you might put a message out and there's a huge conversation happening about an event that you didn't know about, and your message gets lost. Or you might want to piggyback on something that's trending.
Yeah.
You're like, great, I can add to this. So you must be culturally aware. Because can I give an example of when it fails?
Sure.
I don't know if you guys saw this. I think this was a couple of weeks ago. KFC they have an AI bot or something. This was their apology.
Okay.
Oh, it was the AI bot that published it for us. They have some AI version that distributes their social media articles. It found an event that they considered celebrating, and they put an advert out on social saying, KFC, tender crispy chicken on Kristallnacht. It's like, you do not commemorate some terrible atrocity where things
With
were set
chicken
on
wings.
fire with crispy chicken wings. It's like, it's just a total fail and a complete miss of what's going on culturally. Like, they apologized, and I'm probably helping them because people will be like, oh, I must go check out what happened there.
Maybe it was on purpose.
I hope it wasn't on
can
purpose.
never
It's
know.
really bad. But, that's an example of when you don't pay attention to cultural events or nuances and you really get it wrong. So don't be KFC.
Don't make. I mean, yeah.
Speaking
Marketing.
For many reasons.
Which this is when we begin the conversation. Also, automatic systems, you have to be really careful with them, and you have to understand that there is a person, after all, behind this, that they're reading this, and you have to make sure that everything is.
Yeah.
There are a lot of, you see businesses that are they're doing the automatic flow and then just leave it,
Yes.
and no one's like, am I talking to a person? You ask questions, and it's like,
Yeah.
you can't get answers. You can't
So-
really get answers from the bot.
Yeah, so that's
it's
interesting.
there, but it's not actually there for you.
I think that leads to a good point as well, because AI can have its limitations, or it can at least serve you to a certain point, but then you have to recognize, when does someone real step in? You can have a chatbot. Again, if you're having a chatbot for customer service, you have to feed it with so much data and so many answers for it to be effective. Again, back to language, a tiny nuance, my delivery was late, is different from where's my stuff. And a person can understand and interpret, they need some help with where this order has gone. But does an AI chatbot, have you trained it to know where's my stuff means my order was late, or excuse me, let's be very British, excuse me, please can you possibly check the order number that I have? It may be delayed and I'm sorry if it's your fault,
Like huge sentences.
a huge, and can it recognize the two important words, which is late delivery?
Most of them, the ones that I see, do not recognize.
Exactly.
If you write,
No, they're horrible.
Yeah.
you write a
Also
long message, and then you got the message. Oh, what's
Thank
your
you for-
what's your question? Send one for that. Send to. I
just copy what I
just
wrote.
wrote
I
everything.
do it back again.
Yeah, you didn't see that? Look at.
So,
I actually got good help from a bot yesterday.
Ah, yeah?
Shufelsaal, yeah.
Yeah.
It helped me.
Sometimes they put you.
It helped me.
It helped me to a point, and then I was like, no. Number two, a real person.
So let's talk about real persons and accessibility with marketing, which is will be our last subject because actually an hour flew by. So let's talk about what does accessibility has to do with marketing.
So I think again, you have to kind of look at where does the tech come in, where do the people come in. You're saying like as a person, as an end user, somebody who needs the content and the messaging and the product to be accessible might very well rely heavily on technology to be able to use it, to be able to interpret it. So I think it kind of loops all the way back again to what's your messaging, what do you stand for, who are you trying to reach, and be open-minded that just because you think that that's your target audience, there might be somebody out there who has found the most incredible use for this product that you didn't think about. Goes back to Yael's point, go and do the research, go and interview people, have the collaborations, speak to them. Because again, if you put accessibility at the forefront of what you're doing, you make your content available.
It'll be super humane because accessibility will say, okay, let's
a brighter audience, like wider.
Exactly,
Yeah,
a
sorry,
wider audience, yeah.
wider audience.
being
yeah.
accessible is talking to me, the customer, in a way that I just understand. So there's language and there's a lot of things there, but
And there's the timing of when you're receiving it.
Yeah.
There's the format. There's what it talks about. So, as an example, if you, like this is going out live, okay? So there might be people who don't want to watch it live because they have a schedule
showering the
conflict.
babies right now.
Exactly, they have a schedule conflict, but great, it's going to be available on demand. So
yeah.
you're catering to that. Somebody who watches it on demand might need help with captioning and audio tooling. They will have the tooling themselves to be able to overlay it onto the content. So you're having it available in different ways for different people for their needs. It's not about looking and saying, oh, is somebody who has this particular disability, are they going to use my product? No, it's about, do I fulfill a need? One great example is, where you see the curbs cut out. So like at the end of the road, you have the dip so that it's flat.
yeah.
Originally, that was for wheelchair users. People with pushchairs, people with luggage, people on skateboards and bikes, everybody takes value from having that. Even, you see people parking illegally, especially here. They take a tire and they go up on the flatbed, like, yay, I didn't damage my car. So it's fulfilling a need that maybe that's not why you designed your product, but you're helping somebody along the way. So always think, if your messaging is accessible, you never know who you will reach. Even if your product is a regular product, you're not trying to make it a product for people with disabilities or for people who need accessibility. But if your messaging is, let them choose, let them decide.
Perfect. So we actually we ran out of time. I think we can talk like for a more like 2-3 hours. So we can do like a follow-up on that one. I hope you guys enjoyed, everyone who listened and watched. I think we got some really, really good points here tonight, this evening.
Thanks for joining
For
me.
Yeah, the whole accessibility thing, the language, the how do you tackle sensitive products. I think it's super interesting. And if you can answer real quick, like super quickly, one routine or habit that just keeps the spark and passion going in the marketing
Do you
world.
want to go first?
Just like 2 words.
For me, it's listen to podcasts, learn, and develop.
This podcast,
This
especially.
Definitely.
especially, but honestly, that's always give me the ideas for reaching new opportunities, because you listen to new technology, new story, new stuff, and gives you ideas. So learn
How
as
about
much
you?
as you can.
How about you, Nicole?
So I have something similar, but what I actually do, like more of a routine, I have Google Alerts set up. So I choose my keywords on all kinds of things that I'm interested in. I get served the alerts every day, and that's what I do for 10 minutes. I drink a hot coffee, and I look through that, and it kind of just bubbles away in my brain all day long.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's interesting. It's a good idea.
Thank you.
Nicole and Yael, thank you so much for tonight, this evening, this podcast. It was super interesting to me, and I hope that some of you guys out there just got the value in the message. Feel free to contact Nicole and Yael for any question about marketing. We have them tagged right here on the Facebook Live. We will obviously upload this in more platforms so everyone can hear this amazing content. So thank you very much. I'll be here. I'll be back next week, actually, not in 2 weeks as usual. Next week, we're going to talk more about marketing, but in a different way. We're going to explore the metaverse. We actually started talking about the metaverse, and I think it's a big game changer. I don't like it, especially. I'm not going to do like a meeting with glasses or whatever. But
You never know. You might look back on this
You
in
never
10
know.
years and say, oh.
oops. Zuckerberg got me there as well. Thank you so much, both of you. I had the
you.
pleasure, and we'll see you guys next week.
הרדיו החברתי הראשון. הכוח חוסר לאנשים.